Sometimes, the darkness hides in places you'd never expect. Not in decrepit mansions or windswept graveyards, but in rooms pulsing with creativity. Rooms that should echo with laughter, argument, and music. Sometimes the darkness is recorded, embedded, waiting for someone to press play. You find yourself at the edge of Raccoon Point Studios, Philadelphia. The city outside is restless, but here, the air is heavy, still. It's not your first time in a recording studio, but tonight, something is different. The walls seem closer. The silence isn't empty, it's watchful. You move down the corridor, past the cracked gold records and faded photos of musicians whose eyes seem to follow you. The carpet swallows your footsteps. The only sound is the hum of ancient wiring, pulsing beneath the floorboards like a heartbeat. A faint, distant breath whistles through a vent. Rumors have always clung to this place. The haunted studio. People whisper about strange noises. Voices, footsteps, laughter from rooms left empty. Some say it's the ghost of a man who died here in the 1970s, his presence lingering, desperate to be heard. Others dismiss it as old wiring, or the fevered imagination of musicians who spend too many hours in isolation. But you know there's more. You've seen the look in the eyes of those who leave here at dawn, pale and shaking, carrying their secrets home. Tonight, you're not here for stories, you're here for a job. The producer is waiting in the control room, his face illuminated by the sickly green glow of the mixing board. He gestures to a battered box on the table. Inside, a stack of demo tapes, their labels faded, the plastic brittle with age. He says there's something on one of them, something he needs you to hear, something no one should have found. You slide the tape into the player, fingers trembling. The reels begin to turn. A faint hiss, like distant rain, fills the room. The music is raw, distant, warped by decades of neglect. The band is there, their voices blurred, instruments bleeding together. The air grows colder as you listen, the hairs on your arms rising. Then it happens, a scream, shattering, primal, buried deep in the mix. It doesn't belong. It's not a note, not a mistake. It's pain, terror, the sound of someone falling through the dark. The producer leans forward, his voice low, trembling. He tells you it matches the voice of a band member, missing, presumed dead. His fate a mystery that haunted the group for years. You listen again. The scream is unmistakable. It's not just fear, it's recognition. Somewhere in the depths of the tape, the lost man is calling out. The lights flicker, the air thickens. You try to rationalize. Maybe it was a joke, a studio prank. Musicians, after all, are known for their mischief. But the producer shakes his head. He's heard all the stories, seen all the tricks. This is different. This is real. You reach for the files, digging through old photographs, session notes, newspaper clippings. The missing man, let's call him Michael. He vanished one night in 1977, last seen leaving the studio after a late session. His bandmates said he was nervous, distracted. He kept glancing over his shoulder, whispering about shadows in the hallway, voices in the static. The police searched, but found nothing. His body never surfaced, only the music remained. You listen to the tape again, isolating the scream, looping it. The room grows colder, the walls seem to pulse. Something isn't right. The scream is layered, as if it's coming from somewhere else. You swear you hear words beneath it, a desperate plea muffled by static. It's not just a sound, it's a message, one that was never meant to be heard. Raccoon Point isn't alone. Studios across the country share similar legends. The Alley Music Studios in California is infamous for its spectral visitor, a man who died in the 1970s, his presence marked by sudden chills, inexplicable noises, and the feeling of cold breath on the back of your neck. Musicians speak of hearing footsteps behind them, laughter in an empty hallway, a piano playing itself in the dead of night. A child's laughter echoes from an empty hallway. The phenomenon is old, older than tape or vinyl. Some say music is a bridge, a way for the dead to reach across. The act of recording, the capturing of sound, the freezing of time, creates a liminal space, a thin place where reality can unravel. The stories pile up, a voice on a track that wasn't there during recording, a shadow in a studio photograph, an engineer who swears he saw a figure standing behind the singer only to vanish when he turned. You remember the feeling of being watched, It's subtle, easy to dismiss, but over time it grows. A weight in your chest, a prickle along your spine. You start to notice the silences more than the sounds. The moments when the music falters, when the air turns thick, when you swear you hear breathing just behind you. The radio suddenly hisses with a voice that isn't human. You dig deeper into the tape. Each time you play it, the scream seems to change. Sometimes it's louder, sometimes softer. Sometimes, if you listen closely, you hear other voices, whispers, fragments of words, laughter that turns to sobs. You begin to wonder if the tape is alive, if it's feeding off your attention. The producer grows pale, his hand shaking. He says he's heard the scream in his dreams. He wakes at night, convinced someone is standing at the foot of his bed. You reach out to the band, those still alive. They're reluctant to talk. Some refuse outright. Others share memories in hushed tones. One remembers Michael growing paranoid near the end, convinced the studio was haunted, that something was trying to communicate through the recordings. Another recalls strange symbols painted on the walls, erased before the next session. All agree on one thing: the scream wasn't part of the music, it was something else. You begin to notice patterns. The scream occurs at the same moment in every playback, but the surrounding sounds shift. Sometimes the instruments drop away entirely, leaving only static and that terrible broken voice. Sometimes the scream is followed by silence so profound you can hear your own heartbeat thudding in your ears like distant thunder. You start to wonder, what if the studio itself is a kind of trap, a place where the past refuses to die? What if every sound, every note, every breath recorded here is a thread in a much darker tapestry? What if Michael isn't gone, but trapped, his final moments echoing endlessly in the tape? A door creaks open somewhere in the building, though you know you're alone. You spend nights searching for answers. The city outside fades away, replaced by the world inside the studio. The flicker of dying lights, the smell of dust and old sweat, the sense of something watching from the shadows. You lose track of time. The tape becomes an obsession, a puzzle you must solve, a curse you cannot break. You experiment, playing the tape backwards, slowing it down, isolating frequencies. Each time, the scream remains. Sometimes, you hear new details, a gasp, a word, a sob. Sometimes the scream seems to come from behind you, as if the tape is no longer a recording, but a doorway. You begin to see things, flickers of movement in the glass of the mixing booth, shadows that dart between the stacks of equipment, reflections that don't quite match your own. The fluorescent lights buzz, then sputter, plunging the room into a trembling half-darkness. The producer becomes more withdrawn, his eyes ringed with sleeplessness. He confesses that he started hearing the scream outside the studio, on the train, in his apartment, in the silence just before sleep. He's convinced the tape is haunted, that it's spreading, infecting anyone who listens. You wonder if you're losing your mind, but the evidence is there. The tape, the scream, the matching voice print, the missing man. You start to believe the studio is a kind of mausoleum, a place where the dead cling to memory, desperate to be heard. The walls seem to close in, the air thick with regret and longing. You remember the stories from the alley music studios? The ghostly visitor, the cold breath, the footsteps in the night. You wonder how many other studios are haunted by their own tragedies, their own unfinished songs. How many voices are trapped in the tapes, waiting for someone to listen. You decide to confront the studio itself. You sit in the dark, headphones on, tape playing. You force yourself to listen, to really hear. The scream erupts, tearing through the silence. This time you don't flinch. You let it wash over you, let it fill you with dread. You focus on the words beneath, the message buried in static. You hear Michael's voice, not just the scream, but something else, a plea, a warning, a fragment of a song that never made it to the album. You realize he's trying to communicate. He's trapped, but not alone. There are others, voices layered in the tape, each with their own story, their own pain. You feel the presence in the room. It's not malevolent, but desperate, a longing for recognition, for release. You wonder if the act of listening is enough, if by hearing the scream, you're setting something free, or if you're only binding yourself to the curse. The studio grows colder. The air is thick, heavy, suffocating. You hear footsteps in the hallway, laughter in the distance, the faint echo of a piano. You wonder if you'll ever leave, if the studio has claimed you as its own. You try to leave, but the door is heavier than before. The lights flicker, the shadows grow. You hear your own breath, ragged, uncertain. The scream plays again, louder this time. You realize you're not alone. The studio is full of ghosts, memories, regrets, unfinished songs. You close your eyes, letting the darkness wash over you. You listen to the tape, searching for meaning, for closure, but there is none. Only the scream, repeating, echoing through time. The silence after the scream is absolute, the kind that presses against your eardrums. You wonder if anyone will ever solve the mystery. If the truth is buried too deep, lost in the static, the dust, the forgotten corners of the studio. You wonder if Michael is at peace, or if he's doomed to repeat his final moments, forever trapped in the tape. You leave the studio, but the scream follows you. In the quiet moments, you hear it, a distant echo, a reminder of what you found. You wonder if the studio will ever let you go, or if you're now part of its story, another voice in the mix, waiting for someone else to press play. In the end, the haunted recording studio is not just a place, it's a warning, a reminder that some sounds should never be heard, that some mysteries are better left unsolved. You carry the story with you, the scream echoing in your mind, a secret you can't forget. The tape spins, the room grows silent, and somewhere in the darkness, a voice waits to be heard. You glance back at the studio one last time. The lights in the control room flicker, then die. The building is dark, silent, empty. But you know it's not alone. The ghosts linger, the tapes whisper, the scream waits. And as you walk away, you can't help but wonder, who will be the next to listen? And what will they hear when the darkness finally speaks?